Good morning to viewers in the UK, good afternoon to viewers in India, and evening to viewers elsewhere around the world. Welcome to another In Conversation with myself, Paul Salahuddin Armstrong. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Rajat Malhotra, a trustee and global coordinator of CPS International, the Center for Peace and Spirituality in New Delhi. Rajat has a fascinating background. Before dedicating himself to Islamic studies, education, and peace building, he spent more than 2 decades in the corporate world, including senior leadership positions in the financial sector. He subsequently completed a PhD in Islamic studies, researching the transformation of Arabian society under the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. In contemporary relevance, his work is deeply inspired by the teachings of the renowned Islamic scholar, founder of CPS International, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan. Rajat, it's wonderful to have you with me today. Welcome to In Conversation.
Thank you, Sheikh Paul, for having me today. It's an honor. And hello to everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Rajat, before we talk about Islam, spirituality, and CPS, I'd like to begin with you. Tell us something about your earlier life. What kind of family and environment did you grow up in? And what were the influences that shaped the young Rajat Malhotra?
Yeah. So I've been born and brought up, Sheikh Paul, in Delhi. And I grew up in a traditional Hindu environment. My parents are very well educated, and my father was into service, and my mother also was into teaching line before she got married. And then I grew up doing my education in Delhi, and then I did about graduation in economics honors, and then my MBA. But all along, Sheikh Paul, one thing that sort of also brought me to CPS and to Maulana was certain questions in mind regarding spirituality, and that created a lot of curiosity, which took me into meditation, into reading, into different school of thoughts while I was pursuing my education. And I meditated for a couple of years, uh, but then I kept searching for the questions that were like bothering my mind, and then ultimately led me to my guru, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan.
So you actually took up meditation and some spiritual practices quite early on.
It was right during my high school days that I started following meditation classes. And then eventually I started to follow another guru. But, somehow I could not really get the answers to my questions. And also, what really happened, Sheikh Paul, was very interesting that when I finished my education, I got into the corporate world. My first job was American Express, and it was way back in 1999, 98, 99. And I was doing pretty well in my corporate sector. I'd finished my education. I was well into corporate sector, doing well. I had also won an international sales award. But somehow I was not, at peace internally. And at the same time, I wanted to sort of understand the answers to my questions in my own framework. And then somebody told me that why don't you go and meet Maulana Wahiduddin Khan? He's an Islamic guru. But at that time, I was very reluctant because, all my life, you'd be surprised, I never made any Muslim friend, any Christian friend. Somehow I disliked Christians, I hated Muslims. And so I was reluctant in meeting a spiritual leader coming from that background. But the
I
search,
suppose naturally, yeah, it's
yeah.
yeah.
But the search in me for getting those questions answered, I thought, let me give it a try. And that's how I met him in 2001, and that was the blessed day of my life.
So how did this first encounter with Maulana Wahiduddin Khan go? Was it initially through his writings or through other people, or was it through this meeting him personally?
It was meeting personally. I knew nothing about Islam, not even the ABCD, because as I said that I never made any Muslim friends all my life during my college days or even during my post-graduation days. I was introduced to him, and I was told that there is one spiritual leader who has a universal outlook to things, and he addresses modern mind. And so I went to his residence in 2001. And it is, when I look back, I realized that I asked him such silly questions, Sheikh Paul, that if I would put that to a ordinary Muslim, he would really be offended. For example, I remember telling him that, Maulana, I think it is in your Quran that unless you don't kill for Hindus or non-Muslims, you will not get paradise. So he wasn't offended. He just smiled and he said that, "Have you personally read it yourself in the Quran?" And that was like, sort of a slap on the face, because I had never, looked myself into the scripture, and I sort of grew up in a conditioned environment. And I said to myself that it's so true. I mean, I should have investigated it myself before putting a question to such a big spiritual leader. But
You
then,
can probably imagine I've had questions like that myself. Uh,
really.
and yeah, the United Kingdom, there's a lot of people that, even though you can easily get hold of Quran, sometimes they're given away free by various organizations. But nonetheless, you will find there's a lot of people that they do not know anything about Islam, and there's a lot of propaganda about Islam and Muslims out there, which is very negative. And then on top of it, you've also got some foolish people from within our faith community who also present a kind of approach that they say is Islam, but it's very far removed from what you and I would understand. And they also give a bad impression themselves. So, I mean, that just reinforces, if you're ignorant already, that just reinforces your ignorant views. So I'm not surprised, that people have these ideas, and I've encountered them myself. So how did the Maulana handle this, other than just like asking you, have you read it yourself?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, and then we straight got into conversation, and of course, it was food for thought that I will definitely look into the Quran myself. But the questions that used to bother me for years, I put that question to him. For example, there was this one particular question that had bothered me for years, that why did God create me and what is the purpose of my life? And I would, sort of extrapolate that question in my mind, thinking that even if I become the most richest man on earth, or, I become world famous, I have all that I require. In the end, I will die. So it sort of, bothered me so much that why should I get into this rat race of doing well in worldly life? Ultimately, I will leave everything behind. And I used to tell people with, sort of similar thought process, that God has really played a cruel joke on humanity. That the moment you are born, your clock starts to tick. You are born to die. And this question actually took me to meditation, to different school of thoughts, and till I met my guru Maulana Wahiduddin Khan, and he sort of explained me the creation plan of God. And when I understood the creation plan of God from him, it sort of put things in perspective. And really addressed my mind. And since then I thought that I would join his center, be a part of his peace and spiritual mission. And at CPS, people of all faiths are welcome. So it was really some interaction, which I thank God from the bottom of my heart. Yeah.
That's really good, and it should be like that as well. I mean, everybody should be free to, like look into these things themselves, and from different perspectives, and even explore all holy books, and see what they've all said on this. Because I did a bit of this myself as well before coming into Islam, and I've even after embracing Islam, I carried on collecting scriptures and researching them and learning about them. And I've learned something from all of them, I must say, not only from Quran. Uh, they're all beneficial, but again, a lot of people don't read these books these days, do they? They just if they have them at all, they leave them on the top shelf. And don't even Muslims, it's like, or
Yes,
they recite them in a language they don't understand, so they don't
right.
really get the benefit from them.
In fact, that's one reason that, he said that if somebody is abusing your religion, if somebody is talking ill will about your faith, it's because of his or her unawareness. And so do not hate that person. Just try to make him aware about what religion is all about. It's very interesting, Sheikh Paul. When I met him, it was after meeting him that I read Swami Vivekananda. While I never did it on my own, when my parents used to tell me, but he would sort of bring out lessons from different faiths, and he would explain it so nicely that it created curiosity on all fronts. And I read Swami Vivekananda after meeting him. So it was quite an eye opener for me, and it was like sort of spiritually charging myself every day whenever I used to talk to him or meet him often.
Amazing. What was it about Maulana Wahiduddin that particularly affected you? Was there a particular teaching, a conversation, or a realization when you thought, there is something here that I need to understand more deeply?
Well, his main focus, Sheikh Paul, was peace. He wanted peace in the world, and he presented Islam as an ideology of peace based on creation plan of God, and he gave practical solutions to peace based on Hudaybiyah model. And he said that peace is not an academic subject for me. Peace is the goal of my existence. I have lived for peace my entire life, and I will die for the cause of peace. And he actually lived up to that statement, because he died on April 21st, 2021, at the age of 96 years. And he was very active till the last year. And his main approach to life was one, of course, to bring about peace through dialogue, and secondly, God realization, which is marifat. So his approach was more of mind-based spirituality. It's people, have different school of thoughts in terms of, like I said, I got into meditation, which is like you meditate with your eyes closed. He said that God's signs are scattered all around you. So open your eyes and read those signs. And therefore, his approach was discovering God through contemplation, through reflection, through conversion, which is converting non-spiritual items into spiritual food. And this, he said, you can do it, in your daily life. So there were many people who said that, who would come and say that I don't have time. I have a very, heavy schedule. I'm very busy. I'm on the move. So he said, you don't have to really take time out to connect with God Almighty. You can connect with Him wherever you are at any point of time. So this was the very unique thought of him, that connect on daily experiences. I can give you an example. He used to listen to a radio a lot, so, and particularly BBC. So in one of the talks that he was hearing, there was a story that was being narrated, and he's written it down also in somewhere in his books, that there was a person in London who was looking for a job, and he was unemployed. He tried a lot, but he couldn't get it. Finally, he was like very helpless. He took out a placard and he wrote, "Please give me a job." And he stood in a London street, raising the placard. And the traffic was going by, completely ignoring him. And then it began to pour. But he didn't move. He kept on holding that placard. So a timber merchant was passing by. He noticed that there is this man holding a placard, "Give me a job." And it was pouring so badly. So he got out of the car and he gave him a visiting card. And he said, "You come tomorrow and meet me in the office." The man went to his office and he finally got the job. So he said that when I heard this story on BBC, it made me restless. I was reminded of death. I was reminded of hereafter. And he said, I immediately, in my mind, made a dua placard, a prayer placard. And I said, God, grant me a seat in paradise. So in this way, it's like an ordinary incident. He connected it with hereafter. And this was one of his main focus area that he would teach us, that try to connect everyday experiences into spiritual food.
That's really beautiful. I think this is one thing. I mean, I remember a question I asked a priest once visiting my middle school, and he always used to talk about himself having, talking to God. And I used to ask him, really? Does God talk to you? Do you hear his voice? I didn't obviously understand at that point. Um, but a lot of people ask this question in one way or another. And the reality is, God's constantly having that conversation with us. But most people don't see it, they're not listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that conversation happens through the birds and the squirrels in the trees. It happens through the weather. It happens through, the interactions that we have with other people in our day-to-day lives. It's
Right.
all part of God's conversation with us, but you have to have the eyes to see it, and of course that requires some training and realization. Otherwise you don't, generally speaking.
Yeah. So it's exactly. I mean, you exactly said what he used to tell us to do. That awaken yourself intellectually. When you are able to do that, then you develop that ability to connect with God with every small instances that are happening around you. Yeah.
SubhanAllah, it's beautiful. So, I mean, but you also came from the corporate world as well. So you'd already experienced the world of economics and business and corporate
Yeah.
leadership. So, what did, when you came to Islam and you saw like this different perspective on life, how did you connect all this together? And did you also look back on your previous life and think about, that in a different frame of mind, or did it give you any kind of realizations about that as well?
Yeah. So corporate life did give me a lot of insight in terms of what people take real life as, and you learn new things because you meet people with different mindsets, and it's a different world altogether. And secondly, Maulana always used to tell his followers that you can either be a one man, one mission, or you can be a one man, two mission, which
Mm.
means that do your worldly duties, and when you get free time, uh, devote it to the center's work. And he was so practical, Sheikh Paul. I mean, he would tell us that never be disloyal to your organization. So if your organization requires your 8 hours, give your best in those 8 hours. Do not do center's work while you're engaged in your corporate life. Only once you are through with that, then you give that time to center's work. So it sort of helped us. Corporate life helped many followers in managing the center affairs in a better way, because in our center there are pilots, there are academicians, there are teachers, there are entrepreneurs, there are financial experts, all scattered all around the world, and they bring the best practices into the service of the center work. It helps us in understanding the youth of today. It helps us to work in a compliant manner at the center. Because he was so particular, he said, if somebody asks you to give an account of 1 rupee, then you should be able to do that. Nobody should be able to point out a finger that you're not running the center in a compliant way. So it sort of complemented our role in the spiritual world. And more importantly, when you've seen that side of the world, and you know that what it is all about, with that glamour and that money and that fame, and then you come onto this side and you compare, you realize that the real happiness lies in remembrance of God. And this is what Quran tells, that surely in
Mm.
the remembrance of God hearts find comfort. So we are able to compare and grow with both these worlds going together.
I think sadly this is something a lot of people today they miss. They're chasing that materialistic aspect of their life, which has its place. I mean, we mustn't underestimate that as well, because without it, the world wouldn't function. But at the same time, it's like, if that's all you have, then there's a certain emptiness there. And, as the Quran says, hearts find peace in the remembrance of God.
Yes.
And also, you find happiness in the small things, that people generally
Yeah.
underestimate, the human interactions. I've had some of the most wonderful conversations with people that, I mean, I remember when I went to the United States, I went on an IVLP. I met people that I were really, yeah, they were amazing people. I don't want to knock any of them. But then one of the most memorable conversations I had was with this African American cleaner in the hotel. And it started from me just saying good morning to her, but it developed into a most beautiful conversation. And wallahi, she's like a hidden guru. And I asked her, I said, what do you do? And she said, I just do cleaning. And I'm like, really? You should be a guru. You should be teaching people,
Amazing.
because she had such profound wisdom and insights. Um, and again, I would have completely missed that if I'd have just walked through there and thought I was just a cleaner and didn't bother greeting her, like sadly a lot of people do. But we're all human. We're all here for a purpose, and some people's purpose is more obvious, and some people's purpose is more hidden. But it doesn't mean they don't have it.
No, true. I mean, I believe, Sheikh Paul Abid, after interacting with so many people with different backgrounds, that the purpose of every human being is the same. It is
Mm.
just that he or she has to discover that purpose, and that purpose is really it's discovering God Almighty. And they may take several sort of routes in terms of finding happiness in their work, in their profession, but ultimately it is in God realization that one really gets the true purpose of life.
This is true. We actually have a question here from one of our audience. How and when do you no, how and at what point do you draw the line between spirituality and chasing career goals? And I think that's a really good question. So I put it to you.
Yeah. I mean, it's what is more important is that what makes you what you make as a supreme goal in your life,
Mhm.
and there's nothing wrong in earning money, but chasing money and making it as the goal of life is where the problem is. Remember, the one of the video that you were mentioning to me that I did was of Elon Musk.
Yeah.
He tweeted that whoever said that money can't buy happiness really knew what they were talking about. I mean, he is one ultimate example of being famous, being in power, and he has immense wealth, the only trillionaire on the planet Earth. But he is not really happy, as his tweet sounds. So the lesson, I mean, the line that one needs to draw should be on the basis of need-based and want-based. I mean, you can manage with a small car, but you desire the top-end luxury car, then that's where the problem begins. Or you are comfortable in a small home, but you want a very palatial house, and therefore then everything, your way of working, your daily life, everything changes once you get into taking loans to acquire those material possessions. So what really matters is that if you really live your life on a simple living plane, then you can be happy both spiritually and materially. Well, how would you think about this question, Paul? You have any thoughts on this?
I'm very much on the same lines. It's just about striking the balance. I mean, if we don't have any like earnings or income or stuff, how do we get by in life? We will struggle. And if we struggle, that can make things very difficult for us. So to have, some kind of stable career is really helpful to be able to, ensure that we can live a comfortable life. But at the same time, if we don't have some kind of spirituality and other aspects of life, that can be empty. That can also be, you wonder why you go into all this trouble and all this hard work. What's it all for? And it can be demoralizing. That's why people get depressed as well, or one of the reasons. So it's like we need something else other than that. I mean, it's quite interesting if when you're networking, and you've probably found this as well, Dr. Rajat. If you ask people, who are you? And they say, I'm an architect, or I'm a doctor, or I didn't ask that. I didn't ask what your job was. I asked, who are you? Um, this is the thing. It's like, for me, I'm not just a label. And in fact, I do several things. There's different roles. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I also, I'm a member of my community. There's so many different things that I do. I'm not just a Muslim chaplain or an imam, or run an organization. And that's, even those are just roles. They're not really who I am. I'm Paul. I'm a human being. I'm someone on a journey of life. I'm here for various purposes that I'm discovering what they are still. Some of them I have some idea and I know, but there's still things that I'm yet to discover, because I'm hopefully still got a lot of life ahead of me. And obviously only the Almighty knows how much, but I hope there's a lot more. Yeah. But this is the thing. It's like, but a lot of people, they identify too closely with their job, and they might be a plumber today, but tomorrow they might be a doctor. They might retrain and go into something else. I mean, that is not who they are. That's just the job that they do.
True. Yeah.
So one thing that I often find is many people, they ask me about Islam, and they think Islam is just like this long list of rules of do's and don'ts. And they're shocked when I come and present them a very different approach to Islam, which is much more spiritual and deep. So I want to ask you, what is spirituality within Islam? How does someone move from simply believing in God, on an intellectual or just like a factual basis, to developing a living awareness of God? What some may be called gnosis,
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, that Maulana's definition of Islamic spirituality was mind-based spirituality, and he explained spirituality not in like traditional definitions. Once I remember I was sitting with him, and he was saying that, do you know what spirituality is? And I asked him that, how would you define it? So he said it's extracting nectar from the jungle of thorns. This world is a world of chaos, and it's like a jungle of information. But the wisdom is, sorting the relevant from the irrelevant. So spirituality is all about, extracting meaningful data, and linking it with the God Almighty. So there is this verse in the Quran which says, "I created man and jinn to worship me." And Ibn Kasir says that it is about worshipping means realization of God. So when you sort of every action or every experiences that you encounter in life, and you link it to God Almighty, to hereafter. That's what the real spirituality is all about. So for Maulana, and what I learned from him, Sheikh Paul, is that he said that in religion there are the rituals, and then there is a spirit, and spirit of that ritual is more important. People usually get into a ritualistic mode. They just follow the practices, that okay, this is what Islam is, or this is what their religion is, whatever religion may be. But most of the people get into ritualistic mode. But I'll try to give you an example to explain what I'm trying to say. He was once talking about the prayer in Islam, about the namaz. He said that just like water cleans the dirt, if there is dirt in your hand, the salat or the namaz is like the same divine spring that purifies you. And then he went on to explain the the ablution process. He said, you have to do wuzu or ablution before you start a prayer. And when you take water on your hand, you actually are praying to God that save me, save these hands from doing any sin. And if I have done any sin or an evil, then wash that sin off. When you take water and you rinse your mouth and you wash your face, then you are actually, you're silently, your soul is praying that whatever improper food that I have taken, save me from its ill effect, or any evil word that I have uttered, forgive me for that, and save me from the evil that I have seen. Similarly, when you take water and you massage your head, you are actually, your whole self is praying that remove the ill-conceived thoughts that my mind have and purify my mind. And likewise, when you wash your feet, it's like you are praying to God that I only tread the path of righteousness and not the evil ways. So it's all about how you practice it in your daily life. You internalize the commandments, and not be just very ritualistic. So when Hazrat Aisha was told about, some companions told her that there are people who finish Quran in one day, she said that they have read, but they have not read. So it's all about how you are bringing spirituality in your daily life. That's more important.
But a consciousness, isn't it? I mean, I must admit, obviously, I've always washed. I've generally been quite a clean person, but something changed when I embraced Islam, and I was consciously washing. I wasn't just washing, and water itself became very precious to me, and the experience itself became sacred. And I realized this myself. It's like a kind of meditation or prayer when you're washing, because you sense the water, and the water itself then becomes symbolic of when you're actually praying. There's the spiritual water that you can't see, but that you feel when you're praying. But this is obviously a lot of people that don't have the same experience. They appear to be doing the same thing, like they're washing their hands, but then there's one person who's consciously doing it, and then there's another person who's just splashing water on their hands, and it looks the same, but it's not necessarily the same. Even the prayer, there are people, they will just culturally join a prayer of, actually it could be any religion, because it's a cultural requirement, and if they don't, people will ask where they were. So they just go along with it, and they do the bows, or they sing the hymns, or whatever it involves. But then there's another person that will go there, and it will be a really transformational experience for them. They both look like they're doing the same thing, but for
Yeah,
one, it's completely different to the other.
that's true. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. So, I mean, it's this kind of infusing of spirituality within our life, and developing this different kind of consciousness. Maulana spoke about developing a peaceful personality. What does that mean?
According to him, only a peaceful personality, which is a synonym of a purified personality, will get the entry in the paradise. And for him, a peaceful personality is someone who does not have any negativity. He used to say that negativity is the killer. And For a person to purify oneself, he has to do taskiya, which is the purification. And therefore, his entire life, he focused on inculcating positive thinking in every individual that he would come across. There's one video, Sheikh Paul, that he did during his last days. It's really amazing. And in that video, he said that there is no greater success in this world if a person does not lead his life without having hatred for another person. And the greatest success is that person departs this world with a totally positive mindset. He said that positive thinking is the biggest virtue, and negative thinking is the greatest evil. This, he said, is his last discovery. So he would tell us that a believer is one, as Quran says, that when they are angry, they forgive. Be like that person. Forgive other people, and if you do that, then psychologically you're free from any emotional baggage. And he would say that I'm able to think of new ideas, and I get inspiration because I have no hatred for any person, and only a peaceful person will be able to remain connected with the God Almighty. There was one very interesting incident that happened that, the initial period, the traditional ulama came to meet him and they wanted to join him. And so Malana was explaining about, the fact that one should always be positive. So they said that we are positive. So he said, okay, do you hate Hindus? So they said, no, we don't hate Hindus. He says, what about Christians? He said, we don't hate Christians. And then he spoke about one political party, another political party, and they kept saying no. The moment Malana said, what about Jews? So they said, of course, they are our enemies. We have to hate them. So he said that you cannot enter paradise because a person who has an iota of hatred will not get an entry into paradise. And this is what, one of the verse says that it is the recompense for those who purify themselves. And purification is all nothing but positive thinking. So being peaceful was everything for him.
I think, this is another thing which it's holding a lot of people back from this internal spiritual realization. And again, regardless of their particular like community or faith, um, it's kind of identity politics which has kind of took over our world today. I mean, it's I was going to say here, but it's also there in India. It's in many places around the world. Um, I mean, you and I understand Islam as much more deep than something like what we wear or the length of our facial hair or, these sorts of things. Um, and similarly, I mean, there are people I know who are Buddhists or are Hindus, and they understand that their faith goes beyond a particular kind of robe or a particular kind of, attire or whatever they happen to traditionally wear. Uh, Yet today, religious identity can sometimes become so heavily focused on how someone dresses or speaks or how they present or carry themselves. How have we confused these outward identities and presentations of ourselves with the actual purpose? And in fact, the actual purpose of all of these religious traditions, which are all really pointing towards taqwa.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. True.
So, okay, do you have any thoughts on that? Or what would Maulana Wahiduddin say about this?
He would say that you know if you are not a positive person, you can never be an asset to a society or to a nation. And his emphasis would be to, in any ways, let go of any negative thought. And therefore, he said that when somebody does wrong to you, it's actually an opportunity for you to earn reward. And just think about it, Sheikh Paul. I mean, one incident that really puts to rest all of this, uh, you know, questions that people put, that patience till up till when, or why should we not give it back to the people, is the incident of Taif that we know from Prophet's life. I mean, he went 70 miles to give the message, not for a business transaction, but he went for their eternal goodness. And he was confronted, he was hurt, and he was bleeding profusely. And when the angel of mountain came down and said that, let me, squash the cities between the two mountains, he said, no, the future generation will come on one God. And today I feel that the city of Taif is like sort of a living witness, as if it's announcing that, oh, people of the world, look at me. I mean, I flourish, my inhabitants flourish because my prophet chose forgiveness over revenge and peace over anger. So it's like any person today on a verbal assault would be ready to kill the other person. But here we have an example from Prophet's life that he was physically hurt, and yet he did not become negative. Yet he was like a true well-wisher for humanity, and that's one reason that why he was called as a mercy for humanity. So, I mean, there are so many examples that we get from his life, from Sahaba's life, that how being positive and not, sort of giving into the negative environment, we can really bring about a change, a transformation.
So what then does a genuinely Islamic life look like? Can it look remarkably ordinary from the outside? Working, raising a family, being a good neighbor, pursuing knowledge, and contributing to society, and maybe being a scientist or something, while being profoundly spiritual inwardly.
I think if today people start following the Sunnah, I mean, genuinely, the life will be far more beautiful, it'll be less complex and more meaningful. Maulana used to say that people today are restless. People today have anxiety, tension because they've forgotten the Sunnah of the Prophet. And, if you, let's say, you follow all the five pillars with spirit, and you help others, and you pray to God, you connect with daily experiences into meaningful learnings, your life will be far, far better than what it is in today's world. So living genuinely an Islamic life will actually make the life far more beautiful. We used to see that in his life. When Sheikh Paul, when we used to go to his room, he was an example of what you were asking. He did not have an air conditioner in his room. He had one ceiling fan. And so when we would enter the room, then only he will switch on the fan. And it would be like peak summertime. We would be like sweating, and we'll enter his room and he'll switch on the fan and he would say that I like God's air conditioner. So what he would do is he'd open the windows of his room, and then he will have a conversation with us. And his lifestyle was so simple. We used to travel with him nationally, internationally. We would have our suitcases, and he would have his small bag in which he would have just two kurtas, which is like two shirts, and two trousers, and some oral hygiene stuff, and that's it. So you could actually do a, sort of, you would carry it in the plane inside and do a cabin check-in, whereas we would need to put our suitcases, for security check. And that was his life. He would sleep on the floor, eat very simple food, and he was like an embodiment of the, Islamic life, like you mentioned. And people from government to scientific community to the corporate world, academicians would come and seek his advice. And he was like a Sufi, intellectual Sufi, living a very simpleton life. So he used to tell us that adopt this quote, which may have become cliched, but it's like relevant for all times: simple living and high thinking. If you have simple living, then you would be able to think of new ideas, creative ideas, out of box thinking, and you'll be able to develop yourself intellectually. Once you do that, it will in turn lead you to live further a simple life. So that was like his magic mantra, and he would tell us to follow that as well.
MashaAllah. Maulana was clearly a remarkable man. Aside from all of his books and stuff, but I mean, yeah, to live that simply, it's not easy. I must admit, I try to live quite simply myself, but yeah, I do like air conditioning. I don't
You know,
usually have more than a couple of shirts with me, but subhanAllah. Um, Going back to something we discussed earlier about, in the Quran, it says that our purpose is to worship God. Do you think sometimes the definitions of these words creates problems? For instance, that word is ibadah in Arabic, and obviously ibadah can mean many things. Um, Worship in English tends to bring up certain connotations, you know, how we expect that word means. But of course, ibadah in Arabic means, you know, even like helping your mum carry the shopping home, or, you know, going to work and doing it consciously, remembering God and doing some kind of beneficial work for society, even though you're getting paid for it. Ibadah can mean all sorts of things. Um, so I mean, and that's just one example. Another one is taqwa, which is often translated as to fear God, but it doesn't mean to be like, you know, it means to be God conscious, which is a much deeper kind of meaning and something which is much more profound and useful. And these are just two examples. There's so many that we could go through. Um, there's even, you know, that verse in the Quran that's often translated as, "Today we've perfected your religion for you and made for you your religion, Islam." And I remember sitting in an interfaith group and I was saying, the thing with this is, today we've perfected your deen for you and made for you your deen as Islam. Well, Islam and deen are two words in Arabic. Deen, it doesn't just mean religion in the way that we understand religion. It's more like about a way of life, a way of living, a way of being. And uh, Islam was an Arabic word when that was revealed in the Quran, which means to be in a state of God consciousness and peace before God, you know, which then makes you peaceful towards other people. Now, I mean, if this was translated as, "Today we've perfected your way of life for you and made for you your way of life, a way of peace," um, that's completely different meaning to the one we often read in many translations of the Quran. And it's one that when I actually translated it that way, suddenly everybody in the room, it didn't matter whether they were Hindu or Christian or Jewish, they were like, wow, does it really say that? So do you think
Right.
these definitions can be problematic sometimes?
I mean, if you explain it in the manner that they can relate it with, particularly like, their own framework, modern examples, then it does become understandable. I mean, as far as I remember, the theological differences, I think people well understand the difference between, how the Muslims worship in Islam and how is it different from, let's say, a non-Muslim, particularly on the Indian side, they worship when they go to a temple or a gurdwara. But when you explain to them that, in the Islam, the concept of God is on the basis of Tawheed. Tawheed is like the essence of Islam, where you do not have several idols, but one idol. But at the same time, when you relate to them a hadith like the Prophet of Islam once said that when you pray as if you can see him. And if you cannot attain that status, know that he sees you. Now, in this, what he really means is that, that you are praying as if you are in the presence of God. And when you explain, these, I mean, nuances, people do understand the difference. Like, for example, you talked about piety. Um, there is a very interesting incident that Hazrat Umar once asked Ubay bin Ka'b that what is taqwa or what is piety. So he said that, have you ever passed through thorny bushes? So he said, yes, I have. So he said, what did you do? He said, I gathered my clothes and I walked through very carefully. And therefore, I mean, he said piety is the same thing, which is that, there are so many distractions in this world. There are temptations, there is greed, and you have to tread your path in this world, saving yourself from those distractions, from those greed, and stay focused on one God. So, I mean, it's when you explain it with relevant examples, people do understand it.
It's true, but and this is what I was saying. I think there is a problem with the way some things are translated. That it generates maybe unnecessary misunderstanding. Where when things are translated in a better way, Even if we have to use sometimes in English, like taqwa, you know, if you translate it as piety, it doesn't really convey the same meaning as God conscious, whereas God consciousness is two words, but it actually carries the meaning far better than piety. Um, so it's I think sometimes this is something that does need to be looked at, you know, and even for Muslims today, not even for people of other faiths. Because I mean, I have Muslim students who ask me about things, and when I explain things like this, they go, "There's suddenly that aha moment," you know. It's like it suddenly clicks, and it's like, "Oh, that makes sense." But you're like, the way I was taught it, it didn't make any sense. Um,
I, what really needs to be told to Muslim youths today, Sheikh Paul, is the fact that you can follow your own religion, but respecting other religions is very important. So Maulana had coined this uh, formula from Lakum Dinakum Waliyadin, that for you your religion, for me mine, but the formula is follow one and respect all. Respecting the other religions is the most important thing that one must keep in mind before interacting with people of other faiths.
I think definitely, and I mean, I don't know about yourself, but I've been doing interfaith and multi-faith work almost as long as I've been a Muslim. And for me, it came naturally about 6 months after I embraced Islam. In fact, most of the other scriptures of other religions that I've read, most of the other research I've done about other religions, came after I became a Muslim, rather than beforehand. And I saw it as part of my own journey, and also as part of my responsibility as a Muslim. I can't talk about someone else or their beliefs unless I know what I'm talking about. I encounter it all too often. The Jesuits are this, or the Hindus are that, or the Jews, you know, and it's like, but I know Jesuits, I know Hindus, I know Jews, I know what they believe. And it's often very different from what sometimes people say. And, even like we find it ourselves with Islam. People talk about Islam and say all sorts of things. And yet it's quite different from what we understand as Islam and what the majority of educated Muslims would understand of Islam. Um, so, I mean, there's definitely issues here that we need to address, and it really boils down to education, I guess.
Yeah, the interaction is the key, and that is why Maulana used to emphasize a lot that interact for the sake of interaction. His approach was never like a debate kind of an approach where you try to showcase the superiority of your faith, but more in terms of understanding the other point of view and adopting it if it's good. There is a tradition which says that wisdom is the lost property of a believer, and he should take it from wherever he gets it. So it's very important that you interact for two things. One is that of course you exchange ideas, you learn about the other faith, and secondly you dispel the misunderstanding that gets created because of unawareness, and that is what needs to be broken, and that can happen only through dialogue, through discussion.
This is true. And obviously, I mean, there are differences between the religions. I mean, I don't believe in the Trinity, otherwise I'd be a Christian, and such as this. But at the same time, one of the things I've discovered is within all of these religions, in their own way, they call people towards taqwa. They call people towards being more God conscious or more conscious, um, and that changes. That spiritual transformation for the people who really actually embrace and follow the teachings. Um, all the religions seem to have this, and the other thing that I've noticed they all have is the golden rule that we should treat other people as we would like to be treated ourselves, and not treat them how we wouldn't like to be treated. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, of course, said this as, "You're not a Muslim if you do not want for your brother that which you want for yourself."
True.
It's phrased differently, but the principle is there within all of these religions. Um, and it is a sad, uh, it is a sad state of affairs that a lot of people are not aware of this, and it creates immense understanding and problems between people who are really on similar paths. And I think we need to do more to sort of raise awareness of that, I think.
Absolutely. And this is one of the foremost agenda at Center for Peace and Spirituality. We create videos and we are creating leaflets, articles, and we invite people to CPS Center from different faith groups and interact with them. And it's really quite an eye-opening interaction, because the questions that they put to us are very basic ones, and you realize that the unawareness level is really at a level where it can be very misleading, and only interaction can sort of help in removing the misunderstanding. And sometime back, it was very interesting. Sometime back, we had a theological group coming from Hyderabad, from Henry Martin Institute. They had sent their international students from different countries, and so we had very good interaction. And so somebody was from Ghana, South Africa, Sweden, Indonesia. And when they heard about Maulana's views and what work we are doing, so one of the Christian priests, a lady, Jennifer, she was from Sweden, and she said that almost like arguably, instructing us and getting angry at us that what are you guys doing? Why is it that when I search in on internet, I don't find you guys? These thoughts and these kind of narratives should be out there on the net. So we said that no, we are doing our best. And not only that, it was very touching, Sheikh Paul. She said that you're doing such incredible work. She went to her church, she contacted her church in Sweden, and they sent a donation of it will be like what, £1,000 to us. And she said this is the first time the church has given a donation outside the Christian faith. But she was so touched by the work that they were doing, and we were in turn, so moved by this gesture that we've become very good friends. And she said, I will stay in touch. She had come to Hyderabad for a theological course. But this is what interaction does. The moment you sort of talk heart to heart, you are able to touch the conscience of the other person, and that cannot happen in debate, that cannot happen in isolation. But if you do tit for that, you hurt the ego of the other person. So touching conscience is when you are sort of understanding the other person's point of view while you are explaining yours as well.
I think you really hit the nail on the head there. Ego. A lot of the time we see these religious debates between people of different religions. All we see is two different religious egos arguing. We do not really see the true face of either of those faiths. It's such a shame, because that's what a lot of people are identifying with these religions now. And yet the reality is that at their heart, they're really striving for very similar things.
True. One of the virtue that Maulana used to emphasize a lot was on humility. He said that you should be humble, and only when you are humble, you become recipient of God's blessings. It's completely opposite of ego, and we need to keep checking within ourselves that what path are we taking, the path of ego or the path of humility.
Yeah, same. My sheikhs taught the same things. So let's turn to CPS International now. What is CPS, and what was Maulana hoping to achieve when he established this movement?
So you would be surprised. He formed Center for Peace and Spirituality, CPS International, at the age of 75 in 2001.
Wow.
And he, I mean, had been already very active in the spiritual domain area, but he realized that he needed to address the youth and to reach out to the modern mind. And also he realized that there is less and less tolerance level in the world, and therefore he thought of setting up CPS, which he did in 2001. And the objective of CPS in its name, which is Center for Peace and Spirituality, to promote peace and to promote spirituality. You would say that peace and spirituality are two sides of the same coin.
Mm.
If you are a spiritual person, you will have inner peace, and if you are peaceful, the expression, the external expression would be in the form of the spiritual outlook to life. And so at CPS, we did like weekly programs while he was alive. Of course, there was a lot of travel and engagement, interfaith dialogues, but now that he is no more, we have kept our weekly sessions continued in the same way. We either play out his videos or we have groups coming in, we interact, then we reach out to the universities and schools. We have universities, some of the universities doing their internship program for the students as part of the course curriculum. They come and do that at center. Then two of his magazines, Sheikh Paul, the Urdu mouthpiece Al Risala, which he started in 1976, that still continues till date. And similarly, the English mouthpiece, which is the Spirit of Islam, that is for the English-speaking audience. So we are active on that. His daughter, Professor Farida Khanam, who's a retired professor from Jamia Millia Islamia, she is our chairperson. And his son, Dr. Sani Hussain Khan, who's also the owner of Goodword Books, he's also the member and trustee, and he's a known personality for writing of children books, Islamic children books. So we do networking, which happens on regular basis. We invite groups at center. Then there is a very vibrant women's group, and they do their online workshops, offline programs. Then we are doing regular meets. These are offline meets as well as online meets. All of this is being done at CPS. The objective being to promote peace and harmony, bridge the gap between different communities and faiths, and also inculcate love of God, irrespective of faith. So everybody is welcome at the center. People from all faiths, come, and they promote CPS ideology. So we have, in Christian faith and Hindu faith and Sikh faith, they're translating his literature into several languages. We distribute Quran for better understanding. That's the only objective. So far, we have distributed more than 12 million copies worldwide free. This was again translated in contemporary language by Maulana himself and his daughter, Professor Farida Khanam. So a lot of activities going on, and then we have chapters. We have one center now in Boston, USA, and they are carrying forward the legacy of Maulana Wahiduddin Khan.
Amazing. I didn't realize Good Word Books was also connected with your organization, because I've used those for years. They're some of the best books in English that you can find
Absolutely.
on Islam, because it's very natural and welcoming, and also the children's ones with pretty pictures and stuff as well, which is, this is what children need. They don't need dry books. They need something to engage them, and it's
Very,
beautiful.
those books are very popular. There was once an article covered on him, Dr. Sani Hussain Khan, Maulana's son, that his books are like Harry Potter books of Islam, and his books are read worldwide, very popular. He's got a very creative way of addressing children minds, and he's done exceedingly well. So, Alhamdulillah, he's a great asset to Center for Peace and Spirituality.
Amazing. I mean, I actually discovered those books some years ago in, believe it or not, a Sikh bookshop in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And at the time, none of the Muslim bookshops were actually selling them. That's changed since. So I actually used to go to this Sikh material. It's what sells material, but Sikh bookshop to actually buy these books, because they were just beautiful. And they were, like I said, they were kind of like, Dorling Kinnersley. They reminded me of Dorling Kinnersley books, but they were about Islam. And I thought it's just wonderful. I mean, this is the thing as well. We need to modernize our approach within education to make sure that we're conveying teachings in the best way, because I've seen it. There are other groups out there that they do have amazing teachings, but they only teach in the local language, or the materials they produce are like newspaper, and it's like, it's unappealing. It's like, if they actually, like scaled up and like improve the quality and the presentation, they would be beautiful. But unfortunately, there's a lot that fall by the wayside in this way.
We're doing our best in every possible way, social media,
CPS, on the
also.
other hand, is a model that you really are moving with the times. And you know, I do encourage our viewers to engage with your organization and its work.
Thank you.
Um, and also, if they're doing similar work, to look at how you're approaching things and to you know, see what they can learn and how they can actually improve what they're doing.
Thank you, Sheikh Paul. Yeah.
So, also, didn't you do some doctoral research on the transformation of Arabian society under the Prophet Muhammad and its contemporary relevance? Would you like to say a bit about this?
Well, my research centered around on how the transformation of Arabian society was brought about. Uh, when I began to study Islam, I had to, before doing PhD, Sheikh Paul, I had to do my master's in Islamic history because I didn't have any background. I didn't know ABCD of Islam, as I mentioned to you earlier. And, while I, of course, read the history and I was doing my sessions with Maulana Wahiduddin Khan, I was reading a lot of literature. And then I realized that the picture that is being presented to the world of the Prophet and Islam is that of a military commander who has expanded Islam on the back of battles and wars. And the spiritual element of Islam is something that is not brought out by the Muslim leadership. And therefore, the opinion of the people at large that Islam has spread with the help of sword. In my thesis, because I was well into the center and the teachings of Maulana, I realized that it is exactly the opposite. It was moral consciousness that was awakened by the Prophet and the spiritual element that really brought about the change, the character change that happened, and the transformation that took place. It was all because of the spiritual element and not the sword. And this is what, sort of I captured in my thesis. And also that it's very relevant, whether it's to democracy or to freedom of expression or secularism. Islam is not against all these modern ideals. And it was very interesting. I mean, I when I was defending my thesis, there was one person who was really getting agitated because it's open when you defend, it's open out to the public, and I was talking all about spiritual, positive peace stuff, and how the Hudaybiyah Treaty is like a master strategy which not just individuals but nations can follow today, and it is relevant for all times. And he was like not feeling good at all. And for him it was like, no, no, it is like on the back of power, authority. And so that is the irony. You blame others that they do not understand Islam, while at the same time you don't do your duty enough to present Islam in a manner like how Prophet did. It did give me a good start, a framework to build on to my knowledge, and thankfully I was able to complete it. Yeah.
I've encountered people like this in my talks as well. Um, but what can we learn from that transformation today? And what enduring principles? Because obviously, 7th century Arabia was very different from any of our modern societies today. But what are the enduring principles that remain relevant for us in the 21st century world?
Most importantly, that people should realize that if you talk to people today, they will say freedom is summum bonum, and as Molana would also put it. But it is not freedom, because too much of freedom can lead to anarchy. And it is peace is summum bonum. And if you look at Prophet's history, or if you study Quran with an open mind, you would realize that the entire focus is that you establish peace at any cost and avoid non-confrontation, because for the simple reason that Sheikh Paul, that what peace does is, why is peace more important? It's the single most lesson that I would say that is the most important aspect of my thesis, is that peace restores normalcy. And when there is normalcy, then there are opportunities. And when you have opportunities around, then through wise planning, you can avail those opportunities, and then you can, sort of establish peace. ILO, if you look, is a International Labor Organization, which is a UN body. It says in its constitution that real and lasting peace is built on social justice. But if that were the case, why don't we see social justice around? And for the simple reason that many scholars all around, who talk about peace with justice, they tie that extra conditions with peace. That if you give us, these conditions, then we'll give you peace. So peace with justice is one reason that, it has always been elusive. Prophet, through the Hudaybiyah model, showcase that unilateral adjustment, or if you make peace as the singular focus, then you will be able to get justice eventually. But you have to get the starting point. I mean, look at it that, all the conditions were completely unilateral, and unilateral to the favor of the Quraysh. And Muslims were so agitated, and especially when that
I think
condition
this is
was
something people forget. The Sahaba Ikram were furious, you know.
exactly. Yeah. In fact, when that condition was put in the agreement that if Muslims flee Medina, they will not be returned. But if Muslims from Mecca goes to Medina, they will be returned back. And so, on that, the companion said, Rasulullah, you will accept this as well. And look at his wisdom, the way he handled. And this is how, the leadership should do when there is like tempers flare high, or when there is a confrontational, environment. You need to assuage the people. You need to pacify the crowd. He simply said that, look, if people want to leave us, let them go. If they are going away from us, let them go. But if Muslims who come from Mecca to Medina, we'll return them and they'll go back and preach there. So he was able to, sort of
Yeah.
swing it in his narrative. And this is exactly why, Hazrat Ibn Masud says that he said to the people of his time that you regard Mecca as the conquest. But for us, we regard Hudaybiyah Treaty as the conquest, as a real conquest. And just to think of it, no other battle, the verse has come in the Quran. There was Badr battle, there were other skirmishes and battles that took place. For none of them, the verse came in the Quran that you've got a clear victory. But for Hudaybiyah, this verse came, Fateh Mobin. It clearly showcased that the domain of Islam is in the spiritual field and not in the battles and, in the wars. So, in today's context, we are living in a highly globalized environment, interdependent. If there is something that takes place in one part of the world, the entire world gets impacted. So, at any cost, if peace is established, then everybody, gets to benefit, and that is why peace is like the summum bonum. And remember, if that doesn't take place, we've seen the consequences. And there is this verse very clear that it says that beware of an affliction that would not smite exclusively those who have done wrong. It is such a telling verse. It's such amazing verse, Sheikh Paul, that if you initiate confrontation, then don't blame that why innocents are being killed, why children, women, elderly are killed. Confrontation leads to indiscriminate killing, and therefore avoid confrontation, because it will not differentiate between innocent and non-innocent. So, I mean, peace is something that really gets everything going. I mean, a person can think of creative ideas. People can set up industries, grow businesses only in a peaceful environment. Nobody would want to set up industries in Iraq, Syria, or Iran at this point of time. But they can certainly set up industries in Malaysia, in Australia, in Singapore, in New Zealand, where there is peace, or in India for that matter.
Yeah, this is very true. And the point that you mentioned about the Hudaybiyah as well, um, when you look at those conditions that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was willing to accept, even though he was actually in a fairly strong position at that point, he could have pressed things had he wished to. But he was willing to accept those conditions. And this is just one example. I mean, it really does fly in the face of these accusations that he was just another warlord, doesn't it?
He would always there are so many incidents from his life that
Mm.
his focus had always been to avoid war and to establish peace, even at to take what you said just now. We saw that when Mecca was conquered in 630 AD, he was in a position of power. He could have taken revenge. And when he addressed the Quraysh, he said, what do you expect? They said that we expect goodness. And he said, I will say the same what Prophet Yusuf said to his brothers, that today there is no blame on you. May Allah forgive you. And he forgave everyone. I mean, he was expelled, he was tortured, they planned his assassination. There was so much of, they
So
maligned
many
him,
Muslims were
slandered him.
murdered. Yeah,
So
after
many
his foot.
companions were murdered. And here he was at a position of strength, like you
Mm.
mentioned, but he forgave all of them. I mean,
Remarkable.
this is such an amazing example for people of all times, that if you really follow the Sunnah of the Prophet, do not be angry, do not take revenge, be forgiving in nature, be compassionate, be merciful, and once
Mm.
you start demonstrating that in your life, the image of Islam will change. Uh,
You remind me of a hadith there as well, that someone came to the Prophet and asked him to tell him something. And he said, "Do not be angry." And he said,
yeah,
"Okay, tell me something else." He says, "Do not be angry." And he asked him again, and he said, "Do not be angry." And
La
it's like
takrab,
he said
la
it three
takrab.
times to really emphasize, "Do not be angry." And there's such a wisdom that comes from that, because actually, when you're angry, then you do not make good decisions. That kind of rational faculty that you know distinguishes us from the animals, that disappears when we're angry, and
Eh,
that's when we make stupid decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Anna used to say that he said the statement that when you get provoked, then you are allowing the other person to dictate you. Don't allow the other person to dictate you. And there's a very interesting tradition, Sheikh Paul. It is, I think, in Ibn al-Jawzi's book, or I think maybe Talbis Iblis. I'm not able to recall which of the books, but it said that the Satan said that he was asked that how do you control the son of Adam? He said when he is in a state of anger, and when he's angry, we play with him like a ball.
Yeah.
So that's what happens when you get angry. I mean, you completely give yourself into the hands of Satan.
I remember something that my sheikh said, Maulana Sheikh Nazim. He said, when your spouse is angry with you, do not get angry with them. Just know that shaitan is riding them. It's the same principle. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Um, but there is one thing that I often get asked when I also teach my students this peaceful approach to Islam, is that peace can sometimes be misunderstood as passivity or weakness. How did Maulana distinguish peace from weakness or passivity?
Uh, I mean, yes, I mean there are theories which talk about that, but one of the fundamental principle of Islam is that always look at the result before taking an action. So if what you call as strength, or what you call as being weak, you understand that if taking an action by being strong brings an opposite result, then what good would that strength do? So it is very important that you look at the result and then take an action. And Passivity is not peace. I mean, it requires a huge amount of courage to step away, especially when you are in the position of power, like you just mentioned in your narrative. So it is certainly not passivity. It is said that paradise is the name of paradise is Darussalam. Now, just think about it, that why would God let those people enter paradise who are quarrelsome, or who are fighting in nature, or
They'd make a mess of it, wouldn't they?
yes, yeah,
Would
you
no
would
longer
not
be
do that.
paradise.
You would not do that in your present home. You would not invite people who are quarrelsome, uh, and therefore, I mean, peace is something which is relevant for all times. It will always bring the desired result, and it is very wrong to equate it with passivity. Definitely not. We don't see single most reason where it has done the opposite. I'll give you a very good example from in the Indian context.
Mm.
Uh, India gained independence in 1947, but the first struggle was the violent struggle was in 1857. It was a violent struggle, Sheikh Paul, but that didn't bring out the desired result, and everybody was like all temper flared up that we will get the independence from the British Raj. But it was like it failed, and it rather consolidated the British empire further. And it took 100 years after that to gain independence when Mahatma Gandhi came into the scene. And it's a very interesting incident that up till then, what was really happening was that you were the from the Indian side, there will be an action, then there will be a reaction from the British side, and it will be like a very forceful. And then when Mahatma Gandhi came on the scene, he gave the call of non-violence, what you call as passive action. And it was very interesting that up till then, Britishers were reacting. They didn't really know how to respond to that because there was no act of violence. I mean, if they would retaliate, there will be no action from the Indian side. So they were so confused. So one of the officer, he wired a telegram to British Secretariat, and he wrote in that telegram, kindly wire instructions on how to kill a tiger non-violently. Mahatma Gandhi had, sort of taken the justification away from the Britishers in India, that on what basis should they react. So eventually, India became free because of the peaceful movement that ensued. And I would say that peace is relevant for all times. It will always bring the desired results.
We actually studied this when I was at school. I don't know what they teach in the schools now, but when I was at school, we studied Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King
Yeah.
because they both had the same approach in this way. I think Martin Luther King Jr. was himself inspired by Gandhi, and they both achieved amazing things for their communities. Um, May Allah bless their souls. Mm. Okay, so Maulana Wahiduddin Khan passed away in 2021. When you look back upon the time you had with him, what do you personally most miss about him?
What I miss most personally about him, I mean, not even a single day has gone by when I don't remember him. And same is the case with all the other CPS members. But the most beautiful thing about him was that when you would sit with him, Sheikh Paul, he would come with new ideas every time. There'll be new thing to learn. That process has stopped. The inspirations that he would get, and he would share that I've got something new to share today. And it would never be the case that he would probably not tell us something new, something intellectually awakening. That particular aspect uh, is what I miss the most about him.
Is there something he said to you or something you learned simply by being around him that has stayed with you particularly strongly?
Uh, I mean, it was always one thing that he emphasized all through, and which is like I've- I'm trying to internalize it all the time, is that come what may, don't lose your positivity. Because as long as you are positive, you will be connected with God. It's like, he would give this analogy of a bulb that it is connected to a electric server. When you switch on, it lights up.
Mm.
So it is the same, your connection with God, and that medium is the positivity. The moment the positivity medium is snapped, you will no more be connected with God Almighty. And he would say that, I cannot afford to not live in the remembrance of God. So therefore, I cannot let negativity enter in my mind, because the moment it enters, my connection snaps. And that is the single most thing that he doesn't want CPS members to forget. Even if somebody does bad to you, just stay positive, just forgive.
Amazing. And finally, if someone watching today knows very little about Islam and perhaps has only encountered a version of Islam that has been dominated by politics and conflict, rules and arguments, what is the one thing that you want them to understand about the Islam that you discovered through Maulana Wahiduddin Khan?
I think it would be the discovery of God uh, through conversion of things around you. The signs of God are all scattered. It's like God is showering his blessings day and night, 24 hours, but you need to be a recipient of that shower, and that can only come about when you have an open mind, which is very important. And once you have an open mind, then a new world will be open to you, a world of spirituality, a world of positive thinking, a world of intellectual development, and that will give you the inner peace. I think that every soul is searching for. I would say that there's one thing that he said once, that when you go for a travel, you get homesick, and but mentally that you will be returning home after a week or so. So your mind says, okay, just carry on, and you are able to manage the travel. He says that it's the same for all human beings. We all are homesick because this is not our habitat. And if we understand the creation plan of God, we'll realize that we are here for a temporary stay. All those worldly things that you see around are very transitory in nature. It cannot give you happiness. And the real happiness is in understanding and discovering God, living by the guidance of God, and preparing yourself for the hereafter. And our real home is not here, and that explains the anxiety, the tension, the loneliness, the boredom that everybody experiences. So be an open mind, and then the shower of God's blessings will come to you.
Amazing. Raja, thank you. I've really enjoyed our conversation, not least through our journeys and teachers. Although they may have been different, it's amazing. There's actually some tremendous parallels in our journeys. And I've recognized so much of what you've shared today. Um, Dr. Rajat
Thank you.
Malhotra, Trustee, Global Coordinator of CPS International, thank you very much for joining me today for In Conversation.
Thank you, Sheikh Paul. Thank you for having me today. Thank you.
Thank you. And to all of our viewers out there, thank you for joining us, because without you, there's no one to listen to us. So you're just as important. May Allah bless you all. And I look forward to you joining us again for our next episode of In Conversation. Until next time, have a wonderful day or night or evening.